The forbidden encounter. It was an ordinary day at the base, or so everyone thought. The sun had just risen, casting light over the facility. The usual hum of machines filled the air, but there was a strange tension. Something felt off. The soldiers went about their work, talking quietly in groups. They glanced nervously at the high-ranking officers, who were speaking in hushed tones. No one knew exactly what was happening, but everyone could feel it. Alex, a low-ranking officer, had heard rumors. They were talking about her again, the alien queen. She had arrived days ago, but no one had dared to approach her. They said she was dangerous. They said she had powers beyond imagination. Her people, the Zalthar, had conquered planets with a single command. Their ships moved like shadows in the darkness of space, so when the queen's ship appeared, everyone froze. The higher-ups ordered everyone to stay away. They said the queen was untouchable. She could destroy them with a single look. But Alex couldn't help it. He was curious. He had to know more. What was she really like? Was she as dangerous as they said, or was there something more to her? He couldn't stop thinking about her. As he walked through the hallways, he overheard a conversation between two officers. "Do you really think she'll destroy us all?" One asked. "I don't know," the other replied, "but I wouldn't get too close. It's not just her power, it's her mind. She controls everything around her with a thought." Alex couldn't believe what he was hearing. How could one being have so much power? Later that afternoon, Alex was walking back to his quarters when he saw her. The doors slid open, and there she was. She stood tall, her skin shimmering like silver under the lights. Her eyes glowed faintly, a color Alex had never seen before. It was impossible to look away. Her presence filled the room, making everything else seem insignificant. She was beautiful, but in a way that made him feel both awed and terrified. She moved toward him, effortlessly. The others parted as she walked. No one dared to speak, no one dared to approach, except Alex. He couldn't help himself. Something inside him pulled him toward her. He didn't even know what he was doing until it was too late. The queen stopped in front of him. Her eyes met his, and for a moment, the whole world seemed to stop. She was close, too close. Alex could feel the heat of her presence. He should have been scared. He should have backed away, but he didn't. Instead, he stood there, frozen. The queen tilted her head slightly, studying him. She said nothing at first, just looked at him with those glowing eyes. "You're not afraid," she finally said. Her voice was soft, but it carried an unexplainable weight. Alex swallowed, trying to find his voice. "No," he answered honestly. She smiled, just a little, but it was enough to send a chill down his spine. "Why?" she asked. "Because I don't believe everything they say about you," Alex said. His voice was steadier than he felt. The queen's smile faded, and for the first time, there was something else in her eyes. It wasn't anger, but something else, something Alex couldn't place. "They fear me," she said softly, "and so they tell you to fear me too, but you see through it." Alex didn't know what to say. He couldn't believe what he was hearing. She had spoken to him, really spoken to him. She wasn't just a queen, she wasn't just a ruler, she was something more, something complex. The silence between them grew, heavier with each passing second, and then, in a voice that barely rose above a whisper, the queen said, "You won't listen to them, will you?" "No," Alex replied. His voice was barely a breath, but it was enough. The queen nodded, as if she had expected that answer. "Good," she said, and then, without another word, she turned and walked away. As she walked past, Alex couldn't help but watch her. His mind was racing. He had just spoken to the alien queen, and she hadn't destroyed him. She hadn't even threatened him. Instead, she had given him something he wasn't expecting: respect. But something told him that this was just the beginning. Something had changed in that moment. Alex didn't know how, but he knew that the queen had seen something in him, something that no one else had. He had no idea where this path would lead, but he couldn't turn back now. The whispers began around him. "Did you see that?" She spoke to him. "He's the only one she's ever looked at like that." Alex didn't care. The only thing on his mind was the queen, and the strange connection that had just begun. The queen's invitation. The next few days were filled with tension, but Alex couldn't shake the image of the queen from his mind. He kept replaying their encounter, the way her eyes locked onto his, and how she hadn't treated him like everyone else. She hadn't threatened him, she hadn't dismissed him. It was as if something inside her had recognized something inside him. He spent most of his days wondering if he'd ever see her again. but that question was answered sooner than he expected. It was late one evening when Alex was walking to his quarters, exhausted from the day's duties, when he saw her again. She was standing in the hall, waiting for him. As he approached, she turned to face him, her eyes met his once more, and this time, there was something different in her gaze. Something more deliberate, more serious. "Come with me," she said, her voice low but commanding. Alex's heart raced. What did she want with him now? But there was something about her presence that made it impossible to say no, so he nodded, and followed her as she led him down the long corridors of the base. They passed by rooms, hallways, and soldiers, but no one seemed to acknowledge them. It was as if the whole world had disappeared, leaving just the two of them. Finally, they stopped in front of a door, one that Alex had never seen before. The Queen didn't hesitate, she entered, and Alex followed. Inside, the room was dimly lit, filled with strange alien technology that hummed quietly in the background. There were monitors displaying unreadable data, and strange symbols he couldn't understand. It was both overwhelming and fascinating. "You've wondered why I called you here," the Queen said, turning to face him. "Why I chose you, why I didn't destroy you like the others." Alex nodded, still unsure what was going on. "Yes," he said, his voice barely above a whisper. The Queen stepped closer, her presence once again filling the space. She raised her hand, and a screen appeared in front of them, floating in mid-air. The screen displayed images of war, of planets in chaos, civilizations falling apart. But Alex noticed something strange. The images weren't random, they were showing the aftermath of attacks led by the Queen's own people. "You see," the Queen began, "I am not what they say I am. I didn't choose to rule through fear, it was forced upon me, by those who saw power and greed in my family. My people have been at war for centuries, always fighting, always conquering, but I don't want that." She paused, her gaze darkening. "I want peace, I want to stop the cycle, but I can't do it alone." Alex felt a weight in his chest. He had never expected this. He had expected the Queen to be a conqueror, a ruler like the stories had told him, but instead, he saw someone trapped by her own legacy, someone who was desperate to change. "Why me?" Alex asked, "Why do you trust me?" The Queen studied him for a long moment. "Because you see through the lies," she said. "You don't fear me like the others, you're the only one who hasn't treated me like a monster, and that's why you're the only one I can trust." Alex's mind raced. He had no idea how to respond, but something inside him told him that this was bigger than just him, this was about something much more important. "You will help me," the Queen said, her voice firm. "Together, we can change the fate of this galaxy, but first, you must understand, there are others who want to stop me, those who will do anything to see me fail. We must be careful, our every move must be calculated, we are playing a dangerous game." Alex didn't know what to think, but the urgency in the Queen's voice made it clear that this wasn't something she took lightly. She wasn't asking him to join her for power or wealth, she was asking him to help her bring peace to a galaxy that had only known war. "Are you ready?" she asked, her eyes locked onto his with an intensity that left no room for doubt. Alex took a deep breath, feeling the weight of the decision settle over him. He knew that by agreeing to help her, he would be making a choice that could change everything, but there was no turning back now. "I'm ready," he said, his voice steady. The Queen nodded, a small smile crossing her lips. "Good," she said, "then we begin." And just like that, everything changed. Alex's life, the fate of the galaxy, and the future of the Queen were all tied together in that moment, a moment that would set in motion events that no one could have predicted. The hidden agenda. Alex's decision to help the Queen was only the beginning. The weight of his promise hung heavily on his shoulders. Each step he took felt like a journey into the unknown. He had no idea what he had just agreed to, but one thing was clear, there was no turning back now. The Queen, whose name was now a secret he would protect with his life, led him through the labyrinth of the base. They moved quickly, no words exchanged, yet there was a shared understanding between them. She trusted him, and that trust made Alex feel more powerful than anything he had ever known. He had no special abilities, no unique skills, just the ability to see things others didn't, and somehow, that was enough for her. They stopped in front of another set of heavy, metallic doors. The Queen pressed a button on the wall beside them, and the doors slid open with a quiet hiss. Beyond them was a control room, larger than any Alex had ever seen. It was filled with soldiers, officers, and strange alien technology, All of them were gathered around holographic screens, studying maps of galaxies, discussing strategies in low voices. The room fell silent when the Queen entered, their attention shifting immediately to her. "Gather around," the Queen commanded, her voice strong and steady. She turned to Alex. "This is where you will see the truth." Alex's heart raced as he took a step forward. The Queen waved her hand, and a hologram of a galaxy appeared in the center of the room. It was a beautiful sight at first, bright stars, nebulae, planets, but then the image shifted, revealing something darker, planets marked with red, signaling areas of war, conflict, and destruction. "This is what my people have done," the Queen said, her tone cold. "We've torn apart worlds, we've forced people into submission, we've let greed and power dictate our every move, but I am not like them. I will not let the cycle continue." Alex felt a chill run down his spine. This was a side of the Queen no one had seen. The Queen who had once been feared, now seemed like a warrior for peace, yet, there was still a part of him that hesitated. Could she really change things? Could they change things? "These are the forces we're up against," the Queen continued, "others who want to keep the war going. They benefit from it, they profit from the destruction, they see power in chaos, and they will do anything to stop us. They will stop at nothing to destroy what we're trying to build." Alex looked at the map, trying to make sense of it all. It was overwhelming. So much destruction, so many lives affected. "What do you want me to do?" he asked, his voice steady but uncertain. The Queen turned to face him, her gaze piercing. "I need you to help me infiltrate their ranks," she said. "I need you to become one of them." Alex's heart skipped a beat. "What? You want me to betray my own people?" The Queen's expression softened. "Not betrayal," she corrected. "It's a necessary step to expose them. We need to know who we're really up against, and I can't do it alone." The weight of her words hit Alex harder than any battle he had ever fought. He had never been a spy, never been involved in covert operations, but the Queen was asking him to do something he could never imagine, something dangerous, something that could destroy everything he believed in. "How do I even begin?" Alex asked, his voice barely a whisper. The Queen smiled, a faint but knowing smile. "You'll start by gaining their trust, you'll start by becoming one of them, you'll do what they do, think as they think, and once you're in, you'll gather the information we need to bring them down from the inside." Alex felt the gravity of her plan. He would have to play a role he wasn't prepared for. He would have to become someone else, someone he wasn't. He would have to deceive the very people he had sworn to protect. But he had no choice. If this was what it would take to bring peace, then he would do it. "All right," he said, taking a deep breath, "I'll do it." The Queen nodded. "Good," she said, "then we begin tonight." The price of trust. The night was quiet, but Alex's mind was far from at ease. He had agreed to help the Queen, to step into a world where trust was both a weapon and a liability, but as the hours passed, doubt crept in. Could he really deceive his own people for the sake of peace? Could he live with the consequences of his actions? The Queen, however, had already prepared for everything. She knew what it would take to bring down the corrupt leaders who controlled the galaxy. The plan was set, and there was no turning back. Alex had to become someone he wasn't. He had to infiltrate the very heart of the enemy's operations. He would have to gain their trust, win their confidence, and extract vital information that would expose their darkest secrets. That night, in the dim glow of the Queen's private quarters, Alex met with her again. She handed him a small device, smooth and metallic. "This is your access key," she said. "With it, you'll be able to communicate with me, stay in contact during your mission. But it won't be easy. They'll be watching you, they'll test you, they will try to break you, but you mustn't let them see your true intentions." Alex took the device, feeling its weight in his hand. "How do I begin?" he asked, his voice steady, but his heart was racing. The Queen's eyes were intense, as if weighing every word. "Start by visiting the places they trust you to go, start by becoming involved in their plans, make them believe you're one of them, your cover must be flawless." "And what about you?" Alex asked. "How will I know what's really happening on your side?" The Queen smiled faintly. "You'll know when the time is right, we will make contact, but until then, you'll be alone in the shadows. You must move quietly, observe, listen, and gather what you can. The more you learn, the more dangerous you become to them." Alex nodded. "I understand," but as he spoke, a chill ran down his spine. he was about to walk a fine line between loyalty and betrayal, between right and wrong. The next morning, Alex was given his first assignment. He was summoned by the military leaders, the very ones who had orchestrated wars across the galaxy. He was to accompany them on a mission, a routine operation to test his loyalty. He had no choice but to comply. The journey was long, a transport ship cutting through the vastness of space. As Alex stood with the others, his thoughts were racing. The men around him were hardened, ruthless. They had no qualms about destroying entire populations for the sake of power. For them, this was just another mission, another day in a war that had lasted for centuries. But for Alex, it was different. Each step he took felt heavier than the last. He was getting closer to the heart of the enemy, closer to the secrets he needed to uncover. During the mission, Alex found himself facing a difficult choice. The operation required them to take out a neutral planet, one that hadn't chosen a side. It was an unprovoked attack, one meant to send a message. Alex felt the weight of the decision on his shoulders. He could stop it, he could speak out, but if he did, everything would be ruined. The Queen's plan would fail, and so would his chance at bringing peace. He knew what he had to do. He followed orders, silently, without protest. The attack was swift, brutal, and efficient. The planet was destroyed, reduced to rubble. Afterward, Alex stood on the ship's bridge, staring out into the vastness of space. The weight of his actions was suffocating, but he knew it was necessary. He had to play this part. He had to make them believe he was one of them. Back at the base, when the mission was over, Alex was summoned again, this time, by the Queen. She stood waiting for him in a secluded room. Her eyes studied him, as if searching for something. "Did you do it?" she asked, her voice calm, but there was a flicker of something in her gaze. "Yes," Alex replied, "I followed through." The Queen nodded, but her expression remained unreadable. "Good," she said, "but remember, Alex, there's always a price to pay. Trust is not given lightly, and betrayal carries consequences." Alex felt a shiver run through him. "I know," he said quietly. "You've crossed a line now," the Queen continued. "You've made your choice, and there's no going back." As the Queen spoke, Alex realized just how true her words were. He was no longer just a soldier, he was something else now, something more, and the road ahead would be far darker than he ever imagined. The turning point. The days bled into one another, each one more suffocating than the last. Alex's mission was becoming increasingly difficult. The more time he spent with the enemy, the more he began to understand them. He understood their cold logic, their ruthless need for control, but he also saw the cracks, the lies they told themselves to justify their actions, the way they twisted every choice, every sacrifice, to make it seem like they were working for the greater good. The longer Alex stayed with them, the more he questioned everything he had ever believed. He had come to the enemy's side to gather information, to tear them down from the inside, but he was starting to realize just how easily someone could be seduced by their power. He was beginning to see the allure of their promises, the false hope they offered. It was tempting, almost too tempting, to join their cause. He shook off the thought, forcing himself to focus. He couldn't lose sight of his mission. He couldn't become one of them, not after everything the Queen had told him. But then came the unexpected twist, a twist that would change everything. One evening, after a routine briefing, Alex was pulled aside by one of the higher-ranking officers, Commander Strath, a man who had always seemed cold, calculating, and loyal to the cause. Strath was not someone Alex had ever thought would take notice of him, but that evening, Strath's eyes were intense, full of meaning. "You've been doing good work," Strath said, his voice low. "You've proven yourself. I've been watching you." Alex's heart skipped a beat. He wasn't sure if Strath was playing him, or if he genuinely respected his loyalty. "Thank you, sir," Alex replied, trying to keep his voice steady. "Don't thank me yet," Strath continued. "I need someone I can trust, someone with your skills. There's a mission coming up, a very important one, and I think you're the right person for it." Alex felt a knot form in his stomach. What was Strath offering? What was the mission? "Tell me more," Alex said cautiously. Strath leaned in closer, lowering his voice to a near whisper. "We're going after a rebel faction, one that's been causing trouble for the Empire. They're a small group, but they have an ally, someone we've been trying to find for years, a key player, someone who could change the entire war. If we capture them, the Queen's entire position will be weakened. We'll have the upper hand, but we need someone inside to get close to the target. Someone who can get past their defenses. Alex's mind raced. Strath was talking about the Queen's rebellion, the very people who had been fighting for peace, the very cause he had joined to destroy. He had been given a choice, to align with the enemy or continue supporting the Queen, but now, for the first time, Alex wasn't so sure. Was this the right thing to do? Should he betray the Queen's trust and go after the rebels, or should he stay loyal to the Queen and risk everything? Strath seemed to sense the conflict in Alex's eyes. You don't have to decide now, he said, but think about it. You're one of the few we can trust. We need someone who can make the right decisions, someone who isn't afraid to get their hands dirty. Alex stood in silence, his mind reeling. He knew he had to make a choice that could determine the fate of the galaxy, but the weight of that decision felt too heavy. How could he betray the Queen who had trusted him, yet, how could he ignore the mission that might bring him the recognition, the power, he had always wanted? In that moment, Alex realized how easily everything could slip away, how easily he could lose himself in the web of lies and manipulation. He was a soldier, but now, he was something more. He was a pawn, a player in a dangerous game, and there was no way out. The Queen's voice echoed in his mind, warning him of the consequences, of the price of betrayal, but Strath's words were more immediate, more tempting. He was torn between two worlds, two forces pulling him in opposite directions. Alex finally spoke, his voice hoarse, I need time to think. Strath smiled, take all the time you need, but his smile didn't reach his eyes. There was something cold, something calculating behind his gaze. As Alex left the room, the weight of the decision pressed down on him. He had never felt more alone. In that moment, he realized how fragile the line between right and wrong really was, how easy it was to cross. The galaxy was on the brink of war, and Alex was standing at the center of it, torn between two paths, two destinies, and as the darkness of space stretched before him, he knew one thing for certain: whatever choice he made, it would change everything. The choice that defines. The days that followed were filled with a restless tension that Alex couldn't shake. He had made a promise to the Queen, a promise to help her bring peace, but the offer from Commander Strath was too tempting to ignore. It wasn't just about the mission anymore, it was about power, recognition, and the chance to change his fate. The more he thought about it, the more he questioned whether he was really cut out to be the Queen's ally, or was he just another pawn in a game too big for him to understand. The question kept him up at night, but no answer seemed clear. He couldn't stop thinking about Strath's words. We need someone who can make the right decisions, someone who isn't afraid to get their hands dirty. Was that what he was becoming? Was this who he really was now? One night, after another grueling day of pretending to be loyal to the Empire, Alex found himself standing at the edge of the base, gazing out into the vastness of space. The stars seemed so far away, so indifferent to the decisions he had to make. He felt small, insignificant, and yet, in this moment, the weight of his choice felt overwhelming. Suddenly, a voice broke through his thoughts, I knew I'd find you here. Alex turned to see the Queen approaching. Her presence was as commanding as ever, but there was something different in her eyes tonight, something softer. She stood beside him, looking out into the distance. You've been thinking, I can see it, she said, her voice calm but knowing. Alex didn't know what to say. He wanted to tell her everything, to confess the pressure he was feeling, but he couldn't betray her trust, not after everything she had shared with him. I'm just lost, he said instead. I don't know what to do anymore. The Queen didn't reply immediately. She simply stood there, staring into the stars, as if contemplating something deeper, something beyond the immediate crisis. After a long pause, she spoke again. There comes a time when everyone has to choose, she said quietly, a moment when you can no longer walk in both worlds. You can't serve two masters, you can't fight for peace and fight for war at the same time, Alex. You must choose the path that aligns with your soul, because in the end, it's your soul that will carry you through. Alex felt a heavy lump form in his throat. Choose, the Queen had said, choose, but how could he abandon the people he had once sworn to protect? How could he ignore the power Strath had offered him, the chance to be someone, to have control, to be more than just an officer? But the Queen, the one who had trusted him, who had seen something in him, she was standing before him, asking him to choose the path of righteousness, the path that would cost him everything. He turned to her, his voice trembling, but what if I'm not strong enough to make that choice? what if I fail? The Queen smiled faintly. You will fail, Alex, you will stumble, you will fall, but that's the way of change. It's never easy, it's never perfect, but you can't be afraid of the fall, you must embrace it, and learn from it. Her words hit him like a thunderclap. He didn't know what was waiting for him at the end of this journey, but he knew one thing for sure: he couldn't run from the choice any longer, he couldn't live in the shadows of indecision, he had to make his stand. I'll help you, Alex said, his voice steady now. I'll stand by your side, no matter the cost. The Queen's eyes softened, but there was no hint of relief in them, only a quiet acceptance. I knew you would, Alex, I knew you had the strength within you. She placed a hand on his shoulder, a simple gesture, but one that spoke volumes. Together, we will change this galaxy, but remember, no path is without sacrifice, and the road ahead will be more dangerous than you can imagine. Alex nodded, feeling the weight of her words settle over him. He had made his choice. It wasn't the easy choice, it wasn't the safe choice, but it was the one that felt right in his heart, and as he looked at the Queen, he knew that he wasn't alone. The next morning, everything changed. Alex was summoned to the Council of War Leaders. Strath was waiting for him, his face unreadable, but Alex could see the tension in his eyes. You've made your choice, Strath said, his voice cold. I hope you know what you're getting into. Alex stood tall. I do, he said, his voice unwavering. I've chosen my side. The silence that followed was deafening. Strath didn't speak again, but the look in his eyes told Alex everything he needed to know. He had crossed a line, and there was no going back. The fire beneath the surface. The decision had been made, but Alex knew the true battle was just beginning. He had chosen his side, but the consequences of that choice were becoming clearer with each passing hour. Strath's cold dismissal stung, but it was the look in the Queen's eyes that haunted him. It was both approval and a heavy responsibility. He had pledged himself to her cause, but deep down, Alex knew he wasn't the same person anymore. There was no turning back. The Queen wasted no time. The next few days were filled with briefings, plans, and whispered conversations. She moved with a sense of urgency, as if the galaxy itself was ticking down to a final moment. Each day, Alex felt the tension grow. The stakes were higher than he had ever imagined, and the more he learned, the more he understood just how deep the corruption ran. It was everywhere, woven into the very fabric of the galaxy, the powerful elites, the warlords, the traitors who profited off the suffering. There was no end to it. But there was something else, something Alex had never expected. As he worked alongside the Queen and her advisors, he began to see her in a new light. She wasn't just a queen, a ruler, or a conqueror. She was a woman burdened by a past she couldn't escape. Every decision she made, every choice she took, was weighed down by the legacy of her family, the weight of an empire built on fear. One evening, after a particularly tense council meeting, Alex found himself alone with the Queen again. The room was dim, the stars outside casting long shadows over the table where they sat. She was reviewing data on an ancient warship, the last of its kind, a relic from an age-long past. Her eyes were focused, but there was a flicker of weariness beneath her gaze. You don't have to do this, Alex said softly. You don't have to carry this burden alone. The Queen didn't look up, but she sighed, her shoulders slumping for just a moment. I didn't ask for this, she said quietly, but I have no choice. The galaxy is at war, and peace is something I've only dreamed of. My family built an empire, but they never understood what true power was. They thought it was in the weaponry, the battles, the control. But true power, Alex, true power is in the hearts of those who follow you. It's in the trust you build, the loyalty you inspire. That's what I'm fighting for, not just to end the war, but to rebuild everything from the ground up. Alex didn't know what to say. He had always viewed the Queen as an enigmatic, powerful figure, but now, he saw the humanity behind the facade. He saw the burden of her choices, the price she had paid for trying to change things. You're not alone in this, Alex said again, more firmly this time. I'm here, and I'll help you rebuild, no matter what it takes. The Queen finally looked up, her eyes meeting his. There was a softness in her gaze, a moment of vulnerability that Alex had never seen before. She didn't speak right away, just studied him, as if measuring the depth of his words. Finally, she nodded. I know, she whispered, but I'm not the only one with a plan, Alex. There are others who want to stop us. They'll stop at nothing to see this galaxy burn. And they will use anyone to do it, even you. The words hung in the air, heavy with the weight of truth. Alex felt a cold shiver run down his spine. The Queen was right. He had already made enemies. Those who feared the change she sought would use every weapon at their disposal to tear her down, and Alex, as much as he had pledged his loyalty, would become a target. Then we fight, Alex said, his voice resolute. We fight together, we expose them all, one by one, and we show the galaxy that there's a different way. The Queen stood slowly, her eyes narrowing, a dangerous fire igniting in them. You're right, she said, we fight, but not just with weapons, we fight with truth, with loyalty, and with the power of our choices. Together, we will break the chains that have bound this galaxy to war, and we will rebuild from the ashes. Alex stood, the weight of their mission now heavier than ever, but the resolve in the Queen's eyes gave him strength. He knew they were about to face a storm that would shake the very foundations of everything, but he also knew that this was the moment they had been waiting for.